tutorial 3, we're going to get into what we actually start doing now to reduce the emotional flashbacks that were described in the first and the second tutorial. And in reducing those emotional flashbacks, we reduce all of the mental health issues that come with them as an effort to protect the self from trauma, from pain, from that which we find frightening or difficult. So what do we do? Well, in designing a solution for this, I was like, what's actually happening and what's the quickest way of getting somebody out of it and of countering what's happening? Now, I believe what's happening with trauma over time, as we were discussing before, is that it happens multiple times across multiple contexts, and it happens over and over and over again. When something happens over and over and over again across time and across multiple contexts, this is called conditioning. So if you are suffering with mental health issues, that means you're conditioned to do something over and over again by pain, by fear, by unpleasant things occurring. And I'd say that's a pretty sucky situation. What do we do with a person? This is what I experienced. The first person that I did this on was myself. The first client that I worked with and everything I test everything on is on me first. And this is what happened to me, is I was conditioned through adverse childhood environmental situations, should we say, to use the polite parlance of the profession. A shitty childhood, I think it's called, in other words, was over time that conditioned me to have a certain set of responses that were maladaptive, that included all of them. All the mental health issues I mentioned before: anger management, anxiety, depression, social anxiety, addiction, dissociation, fawning, codependent relationships, the whole kit and caboodle. So I know this stuff intimately. So if we were conditioned into that across time, through multiple events, across multiple contexts, then this is the trauma, in order to get to a place of non-trauma, let's call it sovereignty, you need a similarly principled intervention. And the one that we'll be using is called a pattern interrupt. And this will allow us to condition ourselves. So now, instead of the locus of control being external, meaning instead of the thing that makes us feel the way we feel now being somebody else or something else, to use the language, the psychobabble language, the locus of control will now be internal. That means the thing that makes us feel and think and act the way we do, we're taking it from the outside world and we're saying, thank you, you had a go at that, outside world, you didn't do a very good job. So now I'm taking it, internalizing it, and I'm going to be in charge for a minute and I'll see how I'll do. Thanks very much. So to move towards sovereignty, you're now going to take a hold of it. We're going to use a pattern interrupt and we're going to recondition ourselves so that we don't feel the same way. This requires multiple events across time and across contexts. The simplest and easiest way, this is just one way, but anything else that anybody uses or that you invent must follow the same principles. It must happen multiple contexts across time. There's no way around that, because that is what conditioning is. That's how conditioning actually works. I used to teach in schools. I used to help people prepare for their exams. I've worked with everybody from like 13, 14-year-olds going in for their GCSEs right the way up to doctors and veterinary science students preparing for, their finals. So varying degrees of pressure, varying degrees of stress. And the thing that I was paid to do, essentially, was to break down complicated and frightening material and make it simple and make it fun. And one of the techniques that we would use is a mnemonic. A mnemonic is anything that helps you to remember. Anything that causes you to remember things easily is a mnemonic. Because I also have a background in neurolinguistic programming and in the martial arts and yoga, where we would use mudras. We do a lot of things with our fingers to, in the Buddhist and Vedic traditions, it would be to access altered states of consciousness. In NLP, it's anchoring of different states. And in education, where I was using it, it was to teach people to remember things in a way that was simple. So I designed a hand mnemonic. And I'm going to show you something that I would like you to do 5 times a day, every day for 30 days. It only takes 45 seconds to do. So I'm only asking you 5 times a day to do something that takes 45 seconds to do. Okay? You can set an alarm on your smartphone so that 5 times a day you're reminding yourself to do this, and you're going to count them off on your fingers, the 5 things I'm going to be asking you to do. So there are 5 statements. They are reminders to remind you of your intent. If you wish to move from trauma, mental health problems, depression, anxiety, all of that mess that we described earlier, all of the messy, maladaptive responses like addiction, like dissociation, towards sovereignty and some sort of a sense of feeling whole and feeling complete without having all breaks in the boundaries, and feeling like you have some capacity to have agency and self-governance in your own life. What we need to do very clearly is we need to set an intent that is what we want. You must be able to say, I am looking to renounce the mental health issue, and I'm looking to move towards being sane and sovereign and healthy and happy and cheerful and capable. You get to write that for yourself. Completely up to you how you want that to be. So 5 times a day, I'm going to ask you to tap on your 5 fingers and remind yourself of these things that will clarify your intent to move towards healing, to move towards emotional regulation, the opposite of an emotional flashback, which in the fancy wordage of the psychological culture is emotional dysregulation, which means your emotions are bouncing up and down. We're moving towards emotional regulation. And you start off by saying to yourself, number 1, you tap your own thumb and you say to yourself, I am not my flashbacks. Whatever your issue is, be it anxiety, depression, the compulsion towards addictive patterns of behavior, dissociation, conflict, rage attacks, the desire to fawn. If you can accept that these are all flashbacks, if I can get you on board with the idea, this is probably not something that you've heard before, but it is out there. They're not my ideas. These are the ideas of Judith Herman and Pete Walker. If you can accept that all of these things come down to flashbacks, then by saying, number 1, look, I'm not my flashbacks. These flashbacks are a response to trauma. If you can have that inside of your mind, you create space. To just create space between the trigger and... I'm triggered by dropping that pen top. And the response is a beautiful thing that is key to the healing. Create the space between the trigger and the response. Even if the space is only half a second and you can't quite do it at first. But if you can't quite do it at first, if you can make it from half a second to 1 second, from 1 second to 2 seconds, from 2 seconds to 5 seconds, you are winning, and you will win this battle, inch by inch. Don't give up, keep going. Create space between the trigger and the response. Don't be the response. Don't associate with your flashback. Yes, sometimes you're going to be very cranky and unreasonable. Yes, sometimes you're going to nosedive into a depression. Yes, but that's not you. You're not your depression. You're not your compulsion to addiction. You're not your anxiety. You are not your dissociation. You're not your turbulent relationships. You're not your rage. And you're not your sadness. These are flashbacks. You have trauma. You are in complex post-traumatic response mode. And we can rebuild that part of you. It's been a little bit messed up by painful and frightening situations that you did not choose, that were outside of your control. So heaping guilt and shame on that and judging yourself or other people judging you for it is really not going to help. The only thing that's going to help is to accept where you're up to right now, no matter how bad it is, no matter how awful it seems, or how disappointed you are with other people, the progress of your life, or where you're up to now. Let it be. for now. Accept it as it is completely for now. And in that also gives us just that little bit of space to make these changes that we need to make. So number one, I am not my flashbacks. I'm not my trauma. I'm not my depression. I'm not my anxiety. I want you to think in terms of flashbacks. Instead of saying depression, I want you to think in terms of the freeze flashback. Instead of saying addiction, I want you to think in terms of the flight flashback. The flight flashback, that's hard to say. I want you to think in terms of the flight flashback that we did at that time. I'm not my flashbacks. I'm not my trauma. I'm not my pain. I didn't choose that. There's a real person here beyond that, and I'm coming back. So again, that's the restatement of intent. I'm moving from trauma to serenity. I'm moving from trauma to serenity and agency over here. Yeah. Number two, you should always have an intent to move towards, that was a Spoonerism, to move towards a goal state. So what is your goal state? Well, serenity, agency, calm, confidence, whatever it is. In the next section, we will be looking at state management, so I can give you specific techniques. So if you say you want to feel confident, you want to feel calm, you want to feel cheerful, we're getting to the specific things you can do to manage your state. But when you're tapping out on your fingers 5 times a day, you start off with, I am not my flashbacks. I'm not my mental health issue. I'm a person and I'm coming back. And you go, my goal state is serenity and agency. My goal state is emotional regulation and calm. That's a good place to go to. Next. So you state to yourself with clear intent, with clarity of intent, what it is you do want to be feeling, to be saying, to be experiencing. So I'm not my flashbacks. I'm moving towards my goal state with clear intent, and my goal state is serenity, agency, sanity, emotional regulation, so on and so forth. The third thing, so we go thumb, I'm not my flashbacks. Forefinger, I'm moving towards my goal state with clear intent. My third finger, wisdom. What wisdom? You're going to welcome your feelings. Later on in the course, I'm going to go into a little bit deeper and more nuance and give you more explanation, more techniques for how to do this. But you have to start welcoming your feelings. Your emotions are messengers. Their intention is good. Their intention is to protect you, to move you away from pain and towards safety. I know that sometimes they feel like, it feels like they're, or it seems to be, it feels like my feelings. It seems to be the case that your feelings are just holding you back, that they are sabotaging your progress. And many times they do. And many times they do indeed sabotage your progress. But you mustn't start hating them as other, as impediments. They are part of you, and they do always have a positive intent. Even the ugly emotions, even the bad emotions, even the emotions that make you cry or whatever it is. So start welcoming them. The more you push them back, the more you suppress them, the more likely you are to experience rage and anxiety and depression. Because if you keep saying to the system, don't feel, don't feel, don't feel, push it down, push it down, push it down, the system will obey you. The human system's great. If you give it instructions with enough fervor, enough times across time and different contexts, it will obey you and it will go, okay, no more emotions, that's it. And you'll be like, oh good, well done. Right, why can't I feel anything? You told us you didn't want to feel anything. Why do I have no lust for life? Why am I not attracted to my partner anymore? Why don't I want to go out and take a walk anymore? Sorry, you said you didn't want to feel anything. Those are things that come from feeling. If you're very emotionally illiterate and emotionally numb, you're also very, very vulnerable to predatory types, to abusive relationships. It will make you very naive. It will make it very difficult for you to think. Being in touch with and welcoming the feelings with open arms puts you in touch with your own internal wisdom and your intuition. You cannot be switched off from your emotions and be emotionally intelligent. The two things don't exist in the same space. You cannot have that intuitive sense of what's going on in the world. if you're switched off from your emotions. So you've got, I am not my flashbacks, I'm not my mental health issues, there's a person here and I'm coming back. Number 2, my goal state with clarity of intent is serenity and agency. I want to be in charge of my own life. I want to live a good life. I want to have strong boundaries. I want to be moving in the direction that I choose, not that other people choose or that my mental health issues choose. You want to be welcoming your feelings. You want to be open to the emotions and to look at them. I'll show you how to process them. The uglier, more frightening, bleaker emotions, they'll knock harder on your door the more you push them away. I'm going to show you a way in a later tutorial that allows them to come in a way that you're comfortable with. They'll express themselves and then they will leave because they are messengers. And once the message is delivered, they shut up. That's wonderful, isn't it? That's how emotions work. We're supposed to work with them, supposed to listen to them, and then let them go. It's all good. You're going to learn now with your 4th finger, your ring finger, that sometimes it is right for you to put yourself first. So you're going to engage in conscious and deliberate, and it goes without saying, moral and righteous, self-interested action. Self-interested action. You're going to start doing what's right for you. Within this is the full range of self-care at the yin end of the self-care spectrum, of taking time out, of reading a book, of being passive and relaxing, and at the yang end of the spectrum, which is self-discipline, which is going to the gym, which is doing this work that I'm showing you in this course, and all of that. It's all of it. It's all of it. You put what's best for you first, and you engage in self-interested action. For people with mental health issues, with anxiety, with depression, with anger management, and all the rest of it, to engage in others first attitude is really not going to help. I know because I've lived it, that it can feel safer, it can feel like we don't have as much responsibility, like there's not as much weight on us to do stuff because we're always living for somebody else, but you'll never get better if you're living from others first all the time. You must be engaging in self-interested action. You must have the clarity of intent of saying, no, I'm going to do things that are just for me in order to fulfill this intent that we wrote earlier, which is conditioning, positive conditioning over time across multiple contexts. Multiple contexts. Do you see how if you're going around every day and you pull into the car park at Target or Asda or your local supermarket and your alarm goes off, or you're walking with your trolley, or you're in an office meeting or whatever, and you have to do this, that's multiple contexts. Well, in the office today, we were talking about the sales figures from last month, and then I found I had to be like, I am not my, because you don't have to say it out loud. I mean, you could, but I don't recommend it. I'm not my flashbacks. I have the clarity of intent to move towards serenity and agency. I'm welcoming my feelings and my emotions. I'm engaging in self-interested action. You just go through it for 45 seconds and you'll be amazed if you're in that context of the sales meeting or the supermarket or parking your car to go to the supermarket, how it gets into everything. So even the way you park your car is affected by this. And all of a sudden you'll go, well, I'm not my flashbacks. Or I can engage in self-interested action. Oh, I can say this now. I can do this now. It's only 5 times a day, but I guarantee you, if you do it for 30 days, it'll have a big impact on your life and it will really reduce these flashbacks down. So you're going to, the 4th finger is you're going to remember to put yourself first sometimes, and you have to engage in self-interested action. And the 5th one, the little finger, this is going to get you out of more trouble than anything else that I can teach you in this course. Here, I am, notice how these 2 words are powerful when you put them together. I am my own self. It is your body, it is your brain, it is your time, it is your life, it is your attention, it is your consciousness, it's yours. I don't know whether you believe in God or spirit or the force of the Jedi or whatever, but it's a God-given right. It's yours. Nobody can take it from you. So you remind yourself of that. I am my own self. My stuff, my karma, my dharma is mine. Your karma, your dharma is yours. If you try to take what I'm supposed to be dealing with, it's going to be bad for you and for me. If I try to take what you're supposed to be dealing with, it's going to be bad for you and it's going to be bad for me, because I'll weaken you if I do that. It's not for me. It's not allowed. That's not kindness. So not straight away. This is going to be hard at first. Not hard, but it'll be the trickier one. But after a month, this is going to save you so much hassle over the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and the rest of your life. When you can say, that's not mine. That problem I was about to help out with, that's actually not mine. That's yours. That's yours. And I think you should handle that. I think you should handle that. I think you're big enough, an adult enough to go handle that. When you can say that, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. It's a double-edged sword. It hacks this way, but like all great weapons of martial arts, it hacks the other way too. So it protects you from your compulsion to overhelp others, and you're allowed to divide the tasks now. That's yours, this is mine, my responsibility, your responsibility. Save you from a lot of trouble. And the other way, it protects you from others who otherwise will try and take your time, who will try and put things on you that are not yours, who will treat your time, your attention, your body, your brain, your life, your consciousness as though it's cheap, or as though it's theirs, or as though it's expendable. It is not. So 5 times a day, you're going to remind yourself, I am not my mental health issues, and I have a clarity of intent that leads me towards serenity and agency. I'm welcoming my emotions. I'm no longer going to suppress them. I'm not going to crush them under a layer of food. I'm not going to snort them away, drink them away, video game them away, or gamble them away, or pornography them away. My feelings are my feelings, and they're here to guide me and assist me. They keep me safe, and they're good, and they keep me bright and smart and alive and intelligent. Yay, I love them. I love my feelings. Let them come. Even the so-called dark and ugly ones, because they're protecting me from bad things. I just have to figure out what. I'll show you how later. Number 4, you must engage in self-interested action. I will engage in self-interested action. I will put myself first. I will make decisions that are for my benefit and nobody else's benefit sometimes, because that is necessary. If you have kids, you have a family, you have a husband, that's great. But number 5, or you're running a business even, number 5, you are your own self, and your kids, your husband, your wife, your business, your employees, they also have their tasks. And their tasks are not your tasks. You have your responsibilities. They have their responsibilities. That's beautiful. That's life. That is sanity. That is sovereignty. That is agency. We all stay in our lanes. We all do what we're supposed to do, and it's going to be okay. Sometimes you'll need help, and that's fine. You can ask for help. So as you go through the day, you're going to be doing this across time, over 30 days, multiple contexts. Phone goes off in the bathroom, it's in the bathroom, it's car park, it's the office, it's the supermarket, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you're picking the kids up, you're watching TV. In that moment, you give it 45 seconds. I am not my flashbacks, I'm not my anxiety, I'm not my depression. I have a clearly intended goal state, which is sovereignty, sanity, agency, and being in charge of my own life. I will welcome my feelings. What feelings do I need to welcome? What feelings came up for me today? Oh, I felt a bit like this. Oh, okay. Maybe I need to do some emotional literacy work on that. I'm going to show you how to do that. I must be willing to engage in self-interested action and put myself first sometimes. Let's figure out how. And hey, I'm my own self. This is my brain, my body, my spine, not yours, not his, not hers. It's my God-given right to live my life in the way that I choose to. Your responsibilities, my responsibilities, my responsibility. Okay, cool, got it. Bang, that's it, it's done. Maybe that was more like 55 seconds than 45 seconds. And you do that 5 times a day, and you do that for a month. And you go, how could that possibly reduce all those mental health issues? Well, because not only do those mental health issues come from the opposite of what we're doing, or they come from a process that's moving in the other direction. So we're now reversing the flow completely and directly and with clarity of intent, which helps. But you reduce the emotional flashbacks, and you start to show yourself the kind of self-care and observance and clarity and vision and space where there will be consciousness. Those mental health issues can't survive there. They can only survive in the dark. They can only survive in the shadow, in the non-conscious self. and you're shining a bright light of consciousness right to the key points 5 times a day, and you do it with a smile on your face because it's kind of funny, it's kind of silly, it's not heavy, and you do it feeling good, and you'll feel good whilst you're doing it, and you feel good afterwards, and that's it. And that's all it takes. So this is not making big promises like it's a cure-all, this is all you'll ever need. This is an exercise to reduce your emotional flashbacks. There's going to be all kinds of people watching this video from all kinds of backgrounds with all kinds of different specific needs. This, I can promise you, is a very good way of reducing your emotional flashbacks, and that generally will reduce or eradicate most mental health issues over a long enough timeline. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for your time and for your attention. I look forward to speaking to you in the next tutorial, where we will be getting into state management techniques, so you can always be hitting your goal state every day. Thank you.